The following contains spoilers for Regretting You. Regretting You is a very sweet and romantic movie that grounds all of its character growth in the fallout of a terrible tragedy and subsequent discovery. Focusing largely on a mother and her teenage daughter as they reel from two deaths in the family, Regretting You uses this as a jumping-off point for a story about love and regret. At the core of the Colleen Hoover love story are two relationships that blossom in the aftermath of tragedy. While Clara finds first love with her classmate Miller, Morgan rediscovers the spark of a never-realized attraction with her old friend Jonah. The result is a movie about the importance of acceptance, both for one's own happiness and to rediscover love. The key emotional element of Regretting You is the fallout of not just Chris and Jenny's deaths, but the discovery of their affair, which forces Morgan, Chris's wife and Jenny's sister, and her daughter Clara to confront some harsh truths about love, relationships, and regrets. Chris and Jenny's deaths are the major inciting incident of Regretting You. Initially believed to be a tragic coincidence, Jenny and Chris were actually in the same car crash. The pair had been having an affair for some time and had been at one such meeting when they died. Morgan and Jonah discover this fairly early in the film, finding evidence of the affair and processing it in their own ways. Morgan spends much of the film rediscovering herself, playing into the character's earlier self-reflection as a predictable stay-at-home mom. Slowly rediscovering her passion for interior design, Morgan's decision to process her pain by remodeling her home gets her moving again. This is one of the film's primary arcs, giving her self-acceptance, and Jonah is overtly calmer after the revelation. But the discovery that his son with Jenny was likely the result of the affair with Chris almost breaks him. Jonah eventually overcomes his anguish to be a father to his son, leading to his emotional arc, where he stops hiding his emotions and confesses his lingering love for Morgan. Clara is the most devastated character in the film, spending much of the plot reeling from the loss of her father and aunt, while also juggling a new romance with Miller. Her anger at her mother's response, which is only further complicated by Morgan's decision not to tell her about the affair, leads her to lash out at Morgan. Throughout Regretting You, all three of those characters are confronted with loved ones who didn't just disappoint them, but actively betrayed the trust put in them before dying. In all three cases, there's never a pure condemnation of them, either. As Morgan explains to Clara once she comes clean, Chris was still a good father and husband in many regards. This plays into the themes of the film, which highlight the ways that regrets don't always have to erase unexpected joys. While Morgan and Jonah both admit that they regret not starting a relationship earlier in life, neither would change a thing because of their children with their deceased partners. Regrets can't be denied, but they can be processed. It also factors into Morgan's mistake in not telling Clara about her father's affair. She comes to regret this decision, as it only further pushes them apart and jeopardizes their other relationships. By being honest and open with Clara, Morgan repairs that relationship and sets up the film's final happy ending. One of the big reasons Clara is left in such an emotional state by the deaths of Jenny and Chris is that she blames herself for their deaths. Unaware that Chris had been the one driving Jenny's car, Clara becomes convinced that she distracted Jenny and inadvertently caused the crash. This gives Clara a deep sense of guilt about the deaths, which plays into her troubled relationship with her mother for the rest of the film. Clara is left vulnerable about their deaths and sees Morgan and Jonah's more complicated responses as them trivializing those losses. It only gets worse when she sees Morgan and Jonah later share a kiss. Convinced Morgan and Jonah were having an affair, Clara only grows more confrontational. She uses Morgan's dislike for Miller as an excuse to push their